We've still got a while before the next update for Destiny 2, or I suppose April 8th isn't actually that far away. Nevertheless, we're in the never-ending season of Doom, but there's still some fun to be had in Destiny if you look for it. For me, that fun comes from builds, and so I'm back with my latest Frankenstein build, this time on the Hunter. We're using the Mothkeeper wraps this time on Strand, and I'll try to keep this tidy, so let's just jump right in. For our subclass, we've got Whirling Maelstrom and Threaded Spectre, with Ascent, Evolution, Generation, and Rebirth. If you're not using a Strand weapon, swap out Rebirth for something else, but a Strand weapon works wonders here. I don't think the grenade you pick has an effect here since the Moth Wrap swaps it out with its own cooldown, but just to be sure I take Grapple. For mods, we have Siphon, Dynamo, and Finder, Focusing Strike, Impact Induction, and Reload, whatever resists you want, Recuperation, Restoration, and Absolution, and finally Reaper, Powerful Attraction, and Bomber. Just use your favorite Strand weapon. Quicksilver is probably the best, but don't sleep on Final Warning or something like Round Robin with Hatchling. You could use Exdirus or Dirus, and yeah, it works with the Moth Wraps since there's synergy there, but honestly, Exdirus just feels really weak. There's probably a play to be made in easier content or maybe even raids, but I found that using an exotic slot on a workhorse Strand weapon worked much better.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
This is all pretty straightforward and comes together to make a pretty strong build. Throwing the moths with teammates around will create 2 shielding moths, whereas throwing them far into enemies will create 2 arc blinding moths. Most of the time they'll make one of each. The blind effect here is really the main draw. It's always going to hit something since they home in on enemies. It's great for crowd control. The one major thing I want to make sure comes across, however, has absolutely nothing to do with the mods. Thread of Generation, actually. We all use it, we all love it, and there's really never a reason not to use it. It's super fun. As such, Bungie has nerfed it quite a few times. It's still really good, but it doesn't create the energy it once did. Or does it? This is where Whirling Maelstrom comes in. Create a tangle and throw it into a group or onto a tough enemy like a champion, and witness the likes of pre-nerf Generation as your grenade climbs with the vigor of an Olympic rock climber. For whatever reason, the Whirling Maelstrom not only fries enemies, but it gives a boatload of grenade energy with Generation. More than really any source I've been able to find. This obviously works better when enemies have more health, as the longer it can stick onto something, the more grenade energy you're gonna get. As a quick little side note, I actually had this all written before the latest update, which saw some buffs to certain parts of this build and a sizable nerf to the uptime of Threaded Spectre. I have played with the build after these changes though. If you were to sit and look for the changes, yeah, you can probably see them. However, neither the buffs nor the nerfs really make a difference in this build. If you would have told me that everything was the exact same, I probably would have believed you. Exdirus is still kinda stinky, and Threaded Spectre is still very available as a get out of jail free card. Measure before and after, and yeah, you'll probably see some differences, but take the build and just simply play with it, and I don't think you'll notice. I didn't. This build is really strong for any content, but I will say for easier content, the moths can sometimes be a little slow, and your teammates can often steal the kills from them. I mean, who hasn't seen someone flying past all the enemies trying to complete the strike in record time? It's great for everything else though. It provides a lot of crowd control and survivability for the whole team, and dishes out a ton of damage as well. Grandmasters, dungeons, raids, you name it, and it works well here. That's all there is to it. I'm not going to sit here and try and make it sound more complicated than it is. Generation Maelstrom keeps your moths going. The dodge clone does a good job of distracting enemies who aren't blinded, and Thread of Ascent keeps your weapons reloaded and boosts handling. Any weapons work, just use your favorite or whatever works well in the activity you're doing. Once everything gets going, there's a lot of stuff happening just on its own. You've got spinny tangles, some threadlings, and moths all at your disposal, and when everything is out, it's truly a sight to behold, and it's fun to watch the game play itself when it all comes together. Let me know your own twist on the build, and have fun.